Welcome back to the Northern Corn Soy Expo. I'm Eric Johnson. We are broadcasting live at the Proceeds booth at the Red River Valley Fairgrounds, and we're having a great day. In fact, it was lunchtime right now. The pulse of the arena is way down because everybody's next door eating food. Poor Peter Zeihan, or I shouldn't say that, but you were a keynote speaker later this afternoon, and you haven't gone over to the feed trough yet. What's going on?
There's time. It's an ag event. There's going to be too much, so it's going to be okay.
Well, you're right. I was telling you about what's over there. And usually for these ag shows, I don't know how many. I know you've been up here several times, which actually the last time I
trip number 9.
Trip number 9. A lot of ag shows are just like because you can do anything. I mean, you're your geopolitical world, so you can talk newsmakers. You can talk. What do you come normally up here for?
It's usually ag in some way.
It is.
But I think 3 of the trips up here were for the North Dakota Trade Office, so trade in general.
Okay, gotcha. Well, we're going to talk just a little bit. You are a featured speaker. You're going to close it. You were the closer. They put your books up there yesterday.
No pressure at all.
What's the title of the latest book? I came back from eating food, and I got back in here, and you were already ready for me, so I didn't get a chance to bring up all your bio information.
The end of the world is just the beginning.
And the title itself makes you think.
Well, it's not supposed to be boring.
No, I know that, but how do you come up with a title like that? Do you do that? Is there marketing people?
It's definitely a team effort. In the case of this specific one, it's split into 6 thematic sections based on economic sectors, so manufacturing, agriculture, energy, and so on. And it's about how everything is going to reform because of deglobalization.
Okay.
And the reason we went with the end of the world is it's everyone who's in business right now, no matter what field they're in, they're going to be living through the greatest change in economic patterns that we've seen in at least the last century.
Well, I was going to ask you that because it's kind of like the weather. I've got friends that are meteorologists because of my media career. I've been around television and other things, and people look, and it's like, oh, we've had, we're in the middle of winter, and we're having these 40, 50-degree days. It's never happened before.
It's happened 9 times to me.
Yeah.
I have never been in Fargo when there's been snow on the ground, and I'm always here in February.
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe you're the phenomenon. We call it El Nino, but are you sure your middle name's not El Nino?
I am not that good of a planner.
Well, let's first of all talk about you're going to be giving a speech this afternoon, and no pressure on you, by the way, but I know a lot of people that are coming that are not even in the ag world. They just want to see you speak. They've been following you because of your books, because of your YouTube. What is the official name? I'm trying to look it up here real quick. It's just Geopolitical Impact on Agriculture.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's not very flashy.
No, I didn't write that one.
Your book was much flashier. So basically, when you come to a farm show like this, what are people most interested in? Are they trying to just see what world trends are and how agriculture is going to be affected? I'm assuming that's basically the main premise, or
it's evolved. So, I've been doing this on my own for 11 years now. In the earlier process, it was about which countries were rising and falling and general trajectories and all that fun stuff that farmers pay attention to, I would argue, better than any other economic sector ever. Things have changed in the last 3 years, though, because we've gotten new batches of data out of places that are sometimes hard to mine. And we're discovering that the Chinese population is now in full collapse. And they now have confirmed officially that they're missing 100 million people from the census. And the number that they're missing may be as high as 300 million.
Oh, my gosh.
So, and all of these people are under age 40, all the missing. So we're looking at state collapse in China within a decade now.
Should we be concerned, or is it just like poor mathematics by somebody or an entity like, there's probably 3 people that live there?
Well, censuses are not the easiest thing to do, and that's one of the reasons why people only do snout counts once every 10 years. And in the case of China, where they've been through such a huge economic transformation in the last 30 years, it hasn't been the priority. So I'm not suggesting that anyone in China was deliberately lying here. But the indirect ways in which you count people, like entering kindergarten, for example, is when we get our first good look in the United States of whether you exist, or when you get immunized as an infant. What we're discovering is the Chinese data in those zones is wildly off because, like for immunizations, they just split the shot up to multiple kids and then stole some of the money. Right. So the data meant nothing. And now it looks like it's not that they're running out of children, they're running out of people age 45. And, you can't have a consumption-led or a production-based system without a population.
How concerned are you in the state of our world at the moment with everything that's going on in Gaza, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, Trump? everything
There's
else
a
in the world. And you don't have to get political on me. I just put the Trump phenomenon is
Real.
a thing in its own. How concerned are you with where the world is right now?
Well, from an ethical and moral point of view, it's a disaster unfolding, and it's only going to get worse. And when this is when we're through this transition period, which is probably going to last 15, 20 years, we're going to come out of it with at least 1 billion fewer people. From a professional point of view, this is my bread and butter, and the name of the book is The End of the World is just the beginning. So a lot of the transformations that we're seeing right now, we're only in the early stages. We are past the point of no return, but a lot of this is in my work.
Right.
So it used to be that people didn't believe anything that I said, and they thought that we'll just bring him in to get an idea, maybe do some contingency planning, but we don't actually think it's serious. And now they're like, holy crap, we got to have Peter back because that just went down.
Right. We went through a very tough period in our world back in the late 60s, early 70s. So how do you compare historically to different times? How do you keep yourself, I guess, plateaued or leveled when you see what today's times are? Are they really that much worse than they were back then?
So the problems we had in the 60s and the early 70s were the problems of success. The whole world was industrializing for the first time. Colonies were getting their independence. They were starting to apply industrial technologies at scale. And so that generated a huge amount of inflation. But inflation comes ultimately from rises in demand. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing now is the reverse of that. Populations are in collapse. Demand is collapsing. China will never have a consumption-led system. They're completely dependent on exports, and the United States is in the process of reindustrializing, so it's not dependent on someone. So we went from a world that was becoming more interconnected, more value added, and higher growth, to now one that's more segmented, less efficient, with lower demand overall. It's a radically different environment.
Well, I don't want to take too much away from what you're going to be talking about this afternoon, but at the same time, I wanted to talk to you. And I could spend a long time talking to you. Do you do any radio by chance? Does anybody have you on regularly talking about?
Regularly, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't do a huge amount of media because I'm traveling so much.
Oh, I would imagine. Well, how can people find you? Obviously, you've got 4 books, and the 4th one made it to the bestsellers list. Is that right? Congratulations.
Yeah, it was on apparently people like this silky smooth baritone.
Wow. It's the backpack.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, the audio was a bestseller for like 9 months. I was like,
that's awesome.
It was great.
Okay, so you have that. Are you in the process of writing another book? Are you already thinking about book 5?
I am noodling over it, but don't tell my publisher that because I'm nowhere close.
Okay. And then you are also doing the YouTube phenomenon or podcaster or however you want to define. How do you define yourself? Are you a podcaster? Is that
not yet? It seems like that's where we're going, but there is a video log that comes out every day. Sign up for that is zeihan.com/newsletter, and it's free, and I will share your data with no one.
Okay, gotcha. But I found you. The analogs of YouTube has discovered that I like you. From the standpoint of I wanted to do some research on you, and the next thing I know, I've got.
And now it's all you see.
And now I'm starting to see stuff. You and the Vikings, and a few other things, and my son is in there.
I'm not sure I want that association.
That's a story for another day. All right. So, is there anything to say about kind of prelim what you're going to be talking about with the folks here today?
Well, we're going through a major transformation here, and the world is not going to look the same 10 years from now, which means that the world of agriculture won't look the same way from now. But one of the advantages we have in the United States and in the upper Midwest in particular is we grow our crops on land that was producing before the last transition. So most of the world's land that has come into cultivation since World War II wasn't producing before because it wasn't productive enough to grow without industrial level inputs. So if we see a breakdown in that input stream, North Dakota, Iowa, the Midwest in general is still okay, and a lot of the major competition like Brazil just falls apart. Now, you add to that our input system is mostly within the continent, and so we're not going to face the disruption, and we have the good land, whereas a country like Brazil has bad land and is dependent upon another continent to be able to make the land grow anything.
Right.
So it's a very different world just around the corner.
Peter Zeihan, president of Zeihan Geopolitics LLC. Is there a website folks can check out? I'm assuming you've got a lot of your
Zeihan.com.
Zeihan.com, pretty simple.
Yeah, if you go into business for yourself, first thing to do is buy your own damn name.
Because people will take it.
They will take it.
If they think, I've known people that have done that. Not me. I haven't done it. Nothing like that. How did you get into this? I know I asked you this last time, but it is interesting. You had a different career one time and decided to move on.
Yeah. Well,
what was the push?
I spent my entire educational experience getting ready to work in D.C., and then I went to live to D.C., and I wanted to be anywhere else.
Right.
So I kind of fell into a job with a media/consulting house in Austin, Texas by accident. I was the only generalist they had ever brought in, which meant by default that almost all the other analysts hated me. But I was the only person who could have a conversation with clients. It didn't end in a shouting match.
Okay.
So eventually I became the unofficial voice of the face of the company, and then I took it on the road myself.
On your own. And again, if you want to find you are podcasting almost every day. You're not
every
a podcaster yet, but I find you on YouTube. Is there another area that people should go to? You mentioned, is it?
It's available in a number of distribution channels, but if you go to Zeihan.com/newsletter, it will always post there first.
Okay. And people can sign up for your newsletter, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
So they'll get the latest. All right, Peter, thank you so much for stopping by. You should go get some of that good Midwestern food. Fatten you up a little bit. You're too dang skinny. Thank you so much.
I don't know if I agree with that statement, but okay.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.